The Aeon of the Twins, Sirius A, Sirius B, Time Travel, and Dog Star Symbolism. I've been tracking these patterns for a long time now, and this is a tough one because it's so vast, but I'll do my best to lay some puzzle pieces out so we can try to make sense of this. I'd like to start with a novel I read a couple years ago called Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. It's kind of it's marketed to young adults and teens, but it's, I believe, loaded with secret occult knowledge. After studying these secret esoteric workings for a long time, I've spotted a lot of patterns that pop up in this novel. So in the story, there are these twins that are brought up in the dark occult agencies, and the dark alchemist who's testing on these subjects is using twins to focus these high cosmic energies into children at birth, almost like incarnating certain psychic powers that are called doctrines. And so the main characters, Roger and Dodger, receive the doctrine called Logos, and it's split in half. One goes to each twin, and this is key because one child can't handle these energies without going insane or becoming autistic and sort of folding in on oneself. But it was found that if twins were used and each twin got half of the doctrine, then it was possible for them to become super soldiers with enhanced psychic abilities, telepathy, and so forth. Now, in order for the twins to harness their powers, they had to be separated at birth, each one going into a different handler family, and brought up in a seemingly normal life setting, but carefully monitored, of course. And so now the twins have to find each other again through their psychic connection. They have to develop their psychic powers that exist between identical twins, but usually are dormant until some kind of trauma or some kind of high stress situation can trigger these powers. And so the twins have to be separated immediately and brought up as separate identities. But they always feel like there's something missing, and soon enough they reach out to each other. They make contact in dreams, etc., psychically, telepathically, until finally they seek each other out in the waking real world and become a powerful force that at the end the dark alchemist who made them, so to speak, can't control them anymore. And the climax is that the twins are actually able to manipulate time, specifically resetting time, a day, a week, And this is indeed the gift or the power that the alchemist seeks to use them for as a time weapon. Okay, so stepping back, we have twins, we have secret occult experiments, we have the manipulation of time. Okay, so immediately one who studies conspiracies, and especially occult Hollywood, should recognize these factors as popping up again and again, especially through the works of YouTuber Finis Temporis, who does very good work. And he shows how, these time travel movies always reference the dog star Sirius. And Sirius is a binary twin star. There's Sirius A and Sirius B. And throughout all this, I was also studying Rudolf Steiner, who talks about how there was initially 2 Jesus children who were brought up to be eventually merged into one body, like the essences of them would merge, and that one vessel would then become the vessel for Christ. So that's clearly a part of this symbolism, almost the light side, if you will, and the dark side is piggybacking off this twinning, if you will, this twin symbolism, twin energy, to run their works of magic and occult wizardry. So we can run through some films and look at how they layer these things up. And then we're going to talk about Kenneth Grant's work, who was a protege of Aleister Crowley and member of the OTO, a high member. How that all ties in with the shifting of the various eons. And he believes that we're in the Aeon of the Twins, Horus and Set, or in another sense, Horus and Maat. Maat being the same as, Libra, the scales, right? Which is again the twin scales, one holding the feather and one holding the heart. So Libra ties in, and of course Gemini, the twins, ties in. The Lover's card in tarot is actually which is ruled by Gemini, and Mercury is actually the lovers are actually twins. That's the secret. So it's all over the occult twins. And so let's look at some films. I'm going to talk about Back to the Future. So the following bit is from, again, YouTuber Finis Temporis. Okay, so we have this scene. This scene stands out in particular. The famous Twin Pines Mall with the upside-down 9/11 on the clock as Marty McFly skateboards in. And the skateboard is a phallic object because there's a lot of sex magic coded in to these scenes, which enhances the energy. So he skateboards in to reference sort of a sex rituals is happening in the background, the occult symbolism. Okay, this is leading up to the time travel. Okay, so we have a dog here. So for the Sirius connection, then it's the shot to the dock Doc Brown, Emmett Brown, which is backwards for time portal. JC stands outside JC Penney. JC, okay. Initials for Jesus Christ. So we have Christ being evoked, and then Sirius is set, so kind of a Antichrist, Christ depiction here. We have, Marty McFly is getting ready to film this experiment with time, and he's got the camera covering one eye. One eye symbolism. So the dog is in the time machine, and the doc holds the two stopwatches, how they're synced up to 1/11/9 or 9/11 again. Of course, 88 being an important number, as we've covered many times on the blog. Trump equals 88 in Gematria. Trump is tied into all the time travel stuff through Nikola Tesla connection, which is another big story. When he says serious shit is a word that comes from Set, and it's also sort of evoking the phallic sodomy connection. Set, of course, being a twin of Horus. Horus and Set is the symbol, nuclear symbol on the back of Doc Brown's lab coat. Is another anus reference. Here comes the time machine, and it goes right through them and disappears into the future, but it leaves behind a flaming 11, which goes right through their legs, which has a sexual connotation there. Marty then asks, where the hell is he? The word hell is carefully placed here, because Set is Satan, ruling hell. Where the hell is he? The dog repeats, a doubling. He is 1 minute in the future. So that's just a teaser, a taste of how all these symbols are lined up. Time travel, sodomy, Sirius, the dog, etc. It's all this occult ritual. And if you think about the middle game that I discussed, we have possibly victims being used, hooked up to advanced technology, possibly children being sodomized and raped by pedophiles while they, psychic children, not just any children, but very gifted psychic children being harnessed as psychic weapons in some kind of time war. I believe this is what's being communicated. I mean, they're putting so much effort. Let's look at another film, Frequency. Same symbols. So many movies and shows and music videos and songs are talking about these things in their subtle language. A lot of energy goes out to this. I believe this is the pulse of the whole thing. This is the pulse of the Illuminati and their mind control tactics. If you're studying the conspiracies and you're not looking into these connections, you're missing a big central piece here. So look at the title of Frequency. We have just in the title a mirroring, and the E's backwards give us a 33. The twins, of course, are mirror images of each other. This is a film, again, about time being manipulated, or in this case, there's a wormhole in time that allows for the past and the future to communicate to each other. And this may be a good point to tie in Kenneth Grant's work in his book Circles Outside of Time, he talks about how there's these two aeons running consecutively, and one of them runs backwards. Maat, that's the daughter, Horus being the son. We had in previous aeons the Aeon of the father, Aeon of the mother, Isis, Osiris, Horus. But little known to most is the secret. In the secret mystery schools, it's revealed that there's also a daughter who is sort of the unawakened portion of the mother, just like Horus has to be. Horus is the father, reborn, reincarnated, if you will. And so, same with the daughter and the mother. So Ma'at runs backwards. It runs in from the future, streaming from the future. So, according to Kenneth Grant, Aleister Crowley ushered in the Aeon of Horus, the sun, in the 40s. And several years later, with far less fanfare, Frater Achad, another member of these societies, ushered in the Aeon of Maat, the daughter, thus making this the Aeon of the Twins. And what else was happening in the 40s? Mengele was experimenting with twins in the concentration camps. And if you look into a lot of the whistleblowing from these victims, MKUltra victims, a lot of them say that Mengele continued long after World War II, and possibly in South America. He continued his bizarre torture experiments on twins and these things. So, okay, this opening scene of Frequency. Let's look at this. So, Frank Sullivan, or Bud Sullivan, gets home from work. He's a fireman. Now he's going to play the father in our occult symbolism here. He gets home to his wife and says, "How about a little bit of the king, huh?" As in playing some Elvis. And that struck me because in a comment on my blog, Sarah Lynn claims that Elvis is actually Donald Trump. Same person, transitioned female to male person, multiple role actor that they use. And that doesn't surprise me. This seems to be the pattern. Okay, we talked about Trump, Tesla, time travel. Trump equals 88 in Gematria. And here, okay, Elvis. How about a little bit of the king? Elvis is called the king, like the king of rock and roll. And the king is, of course, the father in Qabalah and so forth. Trump is the wild card, and the wild card is the Joker, the Jester Fool. Fool in the tarot is also the father, the king. Now his son, John Sullivan, as we'll see, is in the future, 30 years in the future. And the two of them communicate through shortwave radio in some kind of time distortion. So his wife comes into his room while he's on the shortwave radio, Frank, and he says, "Give the radio a rest. Your son wants to say goodnight." Now the son is played by Jim Caviezel, who was also playing Christ in Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. So that's definitely not a coincidence. But meanwhile, John goes to say goodnight. Sorry, Frank goes to say goodnight to his son, John. Here in the past, when he's still only 6 or 7 years old. Yeah, I'll be right there, he tells her, and bumps into the dog. There's Sirius. Tie in, okay. Sirius is a Dalmatian dog, black and white, like the Masonic checkerboard floor, duality. He says, "Oh, are you okay, Elvis?" So the dog's name is Elvis, of course. And to really throw it in our faces that this is all legit, as he's walking in the background, we hear on the radio talk about, will parallel universes ever become aware of each other? Who knows? It's a strange idea. And then he walks into the living room, and his wife is watching the weatherman saying that the sunspots are going to have a serious impact on communications. He goes up and says goodnight to his son, father, son, and Sirius here for our Trinity. We have past, present, future. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Shiva being the destroyer in the future, because the future destroys the past. Remember Maat running backward in time. So the future version of John, 30 years in the future, communicating to his dad via the same radio. And it's maybe due to these sunspots, this bizarre weather activity, and there's auroras at the time. And I think about Jesus being 30 years of age when the true Christ being descended like a dove, the Holy Spirit incarnating into the body of Jesus of Nazareth. This happening in verse 322 of Luke. Let's look at the film The Kid. Bruce Willis, who was in another time travel movie called 12 Monkeys, was also in this film called The Kid. Premise is that his childhood self shows up at his house one day through some kind of rift in space-time. The child is upset through the film because his adult self does not have a dog. And here at the end, the dog shows up. But the kid needs to get back to the future. Get it? He needs to go back to his own timeline. And eventually does, after changing the old man, who's him. He softens his heart. And that's sort of the whole thing, is that the older Bruce needed his childhood self, needed to remember his childhood self. But so let's look at a few more film tie-ins. If you look at, well, I just want to mention the 9/11. Why does that keep popping up in reference to twins? Well, of course, the Twin Tower, Twin Pines Mall, the clock was 9/11, and we have in tarot the Tower card, and the Tower card is, we even had the falling man falling out of the tower, just like the men falling out of the tower, the blasted tower being struck by lightning. And it's also a sodomy thing, the two towers being the two phallics of two males. So the gay aspect of the Illuminati is being evoked. I'll read here from Kenneth Grant. He says, So Zayin, which is the Hebrew letter that rules the Lover's card, okay, which we now know is the Twins. And Zayin is the sword, also. It's a Hebrew glyph for the sword, which is phallic in a sense. It's also the wand. And he writes, hence the blasphemy of the homosexual formula, for it denies Babylon and breeds devils in chaos. The twin towers of the abyss, therefore, represent unpolarized duality. They are the abode of the black brothers, or twins, Set and his double horse, the Diablo, the devil in his positive phase, corrupt and perverse. Hence the typical formula of sodomy as applied to the rear of the tree, as in the Kabbalistic tree, and the rear of the tree being the klipoth, the shades. So the Black Brotherhood are these, I believe those are the real ones in control here. The Illuminati, if they're human, are just the foot soldiers on the ground doing the work, doing the will of the Black Brotherhoods, which are may or may not be actually alive. They might just be like dead, the undead souls that are incarnating again into false clone bodies, or possibly just being, or possession might be another thing, mediumship and this kind of thing, so that they can impart their will and continue their depravity. So, and this is harnessed through the portal of Da'ath, which we've talked about many times. So Da'ath, which is where we get the word death, because they're synonymous, the portal into the abyss. And the fool falls down the portal through the abyss in order to reawaken on the other side of the valley, in the shadow below. And this is the door that A.E. Waite refers to when he says, as there is a door in the soul which opens on God, so there is another door which opens on the recremental deeps. And there is no doubt that the deeps come in when it is opened effectually. Unquote, as in open through sorcery and magic. This portal we see again in the films. This is the Maze Runner coming out of the underground portal into the maze. We see crawling through dark tunnels in many of these films and music videos. The dark tunnel of the vulture's mouth, who is Maat in Egypt, the mad one, the Maat, the Fool card. 21 Pilots their lyrics and songs are all over this. I am a vulture who feeds on pain, he sings. The fall down the portal, all it takes is a little push, little gravity, like madness. The mad one, the Joker, hanging upside down as he falls, falling out of the tower, hanging like the bat, sleeping upside down, the vampire bat, drinking blood like the vulture. The Joker says, "Why so serious?" Sirius, the dog of Set, who is a glyph for Da'ath in Qabalah, as well as the ape of Toth, the ape, the monkey, who japes or mimics the man, the mocking, the cloning, the clowning. Hunter S. Thompson taking adrenochrome to allow demons into his body, these black brothers stuck in Da'ath, stuck in the void space, stuck in the death ship. Stuck in the other side, stuck in the upside down, in this pocket universe, Sirius B, a truly alien world. If we must speak of extraterrestrials, if we must speak of them, we must speak of this interdimensional access, not extraterrestrial. Remember Jim Carrey in The Truman Show? He awakens when the Sirius light falls on him, revealing that it's all a matrix, it's all a set. And of course the dog, always another Dalmatian too, always hopping up on him. Now, there's a tie-in here with the entire career of Lindsay Lohan, because we were talking about the two Jesus children merging into one body, like almost like as if they're switching places, like in The Parent Trap, the twins brought up separately and they find each other at camp and switch lives, switch roles. And Lindsay Lohan did a couple movies where she somehow switches bodies. Like one, she switches bodies with her mother. Another, she switches her fate with a guy that she touches. So she has good luck and then he has bad luck, and then they bump into each other and then their fates switch and now she has bad luck. And in a YouTube comment, someone said that Lindsay Lohan had a twin who died very early, either in childbirth or in early childhood. We never saw her, but who knows if that's true, but it makes sense if it is true, because that's how the dark side harnesses energy, like as a ritual sacrifice, and utilizes that in these Hollywood films. So people go and see The Parent Trap and they get some feels about Lindsay Lohan and twins, and that gets absorbed by the archons. The parasites absorb those feels, the loosh, through the actual ritual sacrifice of her actual twin, if that's the truth. But this is how they do their ritual magic. And finally, to just close this brief introduction out, we'll remind you that the Prestige film, which is highly esoteric, involves secret twins. And we don't find out until the very end that the main character had a twin. The main character being Christian Bale, who was also Batman, of course. But Christian Bale plays a magician, and this is how he does his teleporting man act. One twin goes in one door or portal, and the other twin comes out the other door at the other end of the stage. And this is how he gets famous because no one knows how he does it. It's only until we find that there's two of them. One of them ends up sacrificing himself to save the other. So it's a film depicting Christ and his sacrifice in one sense, and it's also hiding this occult twinning phenomenon. And so just to conclude, that when the Illuminati is putting out all these movies and pop stars, it's the pulse, it's the emotional pulse or heartbeat of the collective humanity that they're seeking to manipulate and vampirize. And all that young energy when a teen glorifies their idol, these singers and so forth, that when they can hide all their symbol magic in amongst the lyrics and the music videos and the movies, if they can hide it all in there, then when the millions of adoring fans react emotionally and take this stuff in as part of them, then all of this is funneled. It puts out a certain frequency that they can utilize. But the good news is that the very act of learning this stuff and spotting these symbols and becoming aware of it, the very act releases you from giving them your energy. But you have to go through a period of mourning. You have to mourn the death of your idols, of your favorite films and so forth. You have to mourn the death of your culture that you thought was authentic and innocent, because nothing that's on the popular stage is what it appears to be. It's all the machinations of the occult, of the Illuminati. And that's a very scary and alienating thought, but it again leads you through the abyss like the fool, so you can climb up on the mountain on the other side, through Christ, through spirituality, through becoming the hermit, by going inward and just trusting yourself and no longer being reliant on pop culture anymore. You can still enjoy these songs and you can still watch these movies and be entertained, but it's never going to be what it once was. It's never going to go back to what you once thought it was. You're always going to see now what it is in its true naked form, which is demonic. But the demon wears some pretty masks and can really dance around for you. And most of humanity is entranced by this dancing devil that we call pop culture. Thank you.